Today, we're going to be talking all about how we travel 3 months internationally each year while still paying rent in the United States. So let's dive in. First, a little bit of background. I'm Kristen, known on the interwebs as Traveling CPA Chick, and I am married, newlywed, who loves to travel, both solo and with my husband. And I tend to spend at least 3 months of the year outside of the country. And while I'm international, it's required for me to both travel and work. So all of that said, I always need stable internet and somewhere quiet to get my work done. So I have 6 things for you to shed some light on how we afford to live this lifestyle. So number 1 is we have a goals fund. And our goals fund is a savings fund that's separate from our emergency fund. And essentially what this is it's a pile of money, so to speak, that is available to us for whatever goals we have. So often, one of those goals is traveling internationally. Maybe in the future, one of those goals will be buying a house or getting a new car. But it's really nice having that extra cash at our disposal to be able to use to support us during a international trip when we still have to pay rent at home. So during those months, our expenses tend to outweigh our income. So this goals fund covers any shortage, which is great. As far as getting our goals fund set up, we have it in a high yield savings account. We use Marcus by Goldman Sachs, so we do get a little bit of interest income from that account. Not much, but we know that the account is FDIC insured, which means that if something was to ever happen to our bank or the U.S. banking system in general, the U.S. government is backing our money. So that's really good. As far as saving for this fund, we made sure first and foremost that our emergency fund was fully funded with 6 months of our normal living expenses. And then we started funding this goals account each month by just putting extra money into it. So we balanced funding our goals account while contributing to our retirement accounts as well. Tip number 2 is we keep our recurring expenses really low. So as far as monthly expenses, of course, we have the normal living ones like rent, we have utilities, we have internet, Wi-Fi, and that's about it. We do not have car payments and are very intentional about continuing to drive our really old 2005 cars until they die, so we don't have to take on that added expense. We don't have any debt. We had student loans that we really quickly tried to pay off, and it was a long journey because we had quite a bit of loans, but now that they're paid off, we have been intentional not to take on any new debts. We don't really have many subscriptions. We don't have cable. We don't subscribe to Netflix or Hulu or any of those things. The only one I can think of that we have is Amazon Prime. So that keeps our monthly expenses so low, which means that our fixed expenses are only a small fraction of our income, and the rest of our spending is variable. Which means that if we go abroad, we don't have a lot of bills at home that we still need to take care of other than our rent, utilities, and Wi-Fi. So that's been a lifesaver. I highly recommend going through all of your monthly subscriptions and fixed expenses and trying to eradicate those as much as possible if you think you want to live this lifestyle. Number 3 is we always look for cheap accommodations in the international country that we're traveling to. So we love Airbnb. That's usually the first place that we start while we're planning a trip, but we try to keep our nightly cost below $60 for 2 people. So often we're staying not maybe in the tourist center of a city, maybe we're staying in a local neighborhood, which we tend to often like better because there's local grocery stores and people just out living their daily life, which means the expenses on the ground are just going to be cheaper. You're not in the tourist trap center of the city. We also look at other alternative living situations. So we were in Costa Rica a few months ago, and we did the Selena Co-Live program. And I'll link a full post about it and all of the mechanics of it. But we paid about $56 a night, and it included a room with a private bathroom for us. We had access to a shared kitchen. We had everyday co-working space that we could access to make sure we always had solid Wi-Fi and somewhere nice to work. And we had daily fitness classes. So that worked out really well for us. So just being intentional about that nightly cost is really important to afford us the opportunity to continue to do this. The next one is that we travel hack our flights. So to and from the international destination, we always try to buy those using points and miles. Often we're going to Europe, and those flights would cost us easily $800 a person. So by using points and miles, we're saving on a big expense, probably the biggest expense of the trip other than accommodation. So the way we do that is normally we sign up for new travel credit cards, and we do so in a way that it won't impact our credit score. And we tend to try to spend to hit the bonus rewards. And normally that bonus reward alone is enough for at least one international flight, if not two. So that is the hack right there, and I'm going to do a whole other video all about what specifically we do to accumulate points and miles. But that's one thing to think about when you're considering international travel and how to fit that into your budget. Number 5 is that we are pretty darn dedicated to cooking and picnicking when we're in foreign countries. So we like to go to farmers markets and buy local ingredients, fresh ingredients, normally better than the stuff we have in the US, for a cheap price, and then go home to our Airbnb or our accommodation and cook our own meals. And we always make sure we do have access to a kitchen while we're traveling, just because that food cost can add up pretty quickly. So we tend to find that our variable expenses in another country are cheaper than our variable expenses at home. We don't spend as much on food in foreign countries as we do in the US, and we normally are eating better, higher quality. And yes, we do still eat out, especially when we're somewhere like Spain, where we can just go grab a couple of tapas for $10, 10 euro, come home and maybe have a snack or something else if we're not yet full. So that's one biggie that we do. Number 6, we always try to stay in a place for at least one full week. Number 1, it's so hard to travel and work if you're bouncing around too much. So making sure that you're in somewhere for a week, you don't feel as rushed to see everything in 2 days. You can kind of take your time exploring the city. Number 2, we also get long-term stay discounts on Airbnb. So if you're staying for at least a week or a month, you can get a 10 to 30% discount on the normal price of the Airbnb. So you find that your accommodation cost is a lot more affordable when you do that. So that's a big one for us. We like to kind of stay somewhere longer term and go a bit deeper with that place rather than trying to see so much in such a short period of time. And we always travel with the attitude that we will return. We don't worry about FOMO and trying to see everything. We will come back. So all of that to say, that is how we manage to afford to travel 3 months a year while still paying for rent at home here in Tennessee. Let us know if you have any questions. I would love to hear in the comments what international destination you have your eyes on next. Thank you.